Welcome to the Scare Guy Show, the official podcast of thescareguy.com, the scarier side of the con guy. Straight from the spooky heart of Hollywood, California, we are your home for news and discussions on horror films, haunted attractions, fan conventions, and all things that are scary fun, but all from a filmmaker's perspective, so we like to have a lot of fun. Hey everybody, my name is Jim Fry. I am your editor-in-chief here at the scareguy.com. Next to me, my partner in crime is
Cheeseman, screenwriter, and here with thescareguy.com.
And we are very, very honored and privileged to have a very special guest with us today, the director of Spare Parts, Andrew Thomas Hunt. Thank you, Andrew, for being with us today. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is a pleasure and a privilege.
All right. Well, you just had a guest with you that just kind of crossed your path. Who's that?
This is Mousy, and it seems like every time I get on, like I can sit at this computer all day, but as soon as I'm doing an interview, he's like beside me, poking me, touching me, like biting me, wanting to. He's a sweet guy, but he just doesn't have good timing.
Well, we have a very cool film to talk about. I'm going to throw the cover image up again. Spare Parts begins in a godforsaken bar in the middle of nowhere where an all-girl band, Ms. 45, rips the stage apart with their punk spirit. But their performance impresses an enthusiastic fan who lures the girls into a trap, sedates them, and starts, how shall we say, customizing them. Slowly, they begin to gain consciousness and, in total shock, realize that their arms have all been replaced with axes and chainsaws and blades to fight gladiator-style in a junkyard arena owned by a sadistic emperor, forcing them into the battle of their lives with one prize in mind, their freedom. Andrew, we just got to know, where did this idea come from? This was a crazy, fun, riotous type of film. Tell us about it a little bit.
Well, as you can tell, it's based on a true story. No, it was something that was, so I'm a partner at a company called Raven Banner here in Toronto, and we specialize in genre films. And about 6 years ago, we were at the Toronto International Film Festival, and a writer came up to me and pitched me a bunch of ideas, and this was one of them. And I immediately just loved the concept and, told my partners, hey, come over, listen to this guy's pitch. And, we kept talking, and I decided that I'd attach myself to it as a director. I didn't have any projects in the work at that time. And, so I attached myself with the caveat that I could, sit with the writers and kind of work on just tweaking it a bit to better fit my sensibilities. We worked on the script for a little while. And of course, like any film, it takes a while to get the funding in place, to get the green light. So we finally went to camera in about September, October 2018. 18? 18. Yeah, 2018. Holy crap. It was a while ago.
That's cool. Let me do this right here. And Luke, I know that you've got a lot of questions, but where did you guys film this film? Because it was a gigantic outdoor Mad Max type setting. Where'd you guys film this at? How long did it take?
Yeah, so we had a budget of $1 million US. Wow. We shot it in 18 days. And so, that doesn't lend itself to building a lot of props or settings. So we shot it in a place called Sudbury, Ontario, which is about 3 hours north of Toronto. And we shot it at an actual recycling facility. So it was like this big plant that like recycled cars, buses, trains, ambulances, like you name it, it was there in smashed up condition. And originally we were going to shoot the arena portion of it inside their facility because their facility is like, it's cavernous, it's massive. But they ended up using the part that I wanted to use inside. They ended up using it for something else. And said, well, listen, we've got this auto wrecking yard just north of our facility. Do you want to use that? And so we went up to it and So we shot in an actual auto wrecking yard. We took the crushed cars, and we piled them on top of each other and built them into an arena. Cleared out all the debris, brought in like 2 tons of sand to create like a level of safety for actresses and stunt performers. And we shot it outdoors. There was one night we actually got rained out. Julian Richings was up in the dais and, was doing his thing. And suddenly this big thunder and rainstorm came rolling in, and we had to, call cut and quickly take down lights and make sure everyone was safe and got them the hell out of there. But yeah, so it was intense. It was intense.
Now, before I throw over to Luke, I'm going to throw it over to him. But for those who are listening or watching, this film is kind of like a cross. I mean, in parts between like Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror and some of the Mad Max Thunderdome type films. But with a super cool industrial punk soundtrack. And I'm going to say, and Luke, I know Luke wants to talk to you about this, some of the goriest kills since Dead Alive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Luke, why don't you go ahead and jump in?
Yeah, just kind of first of all, like, just want to know what your like inspirations were kind of growing up and what kind of like got you into the genre and directing. Like, I definitely, felt like there was kind of this like old school kind of like 70s, 80s horror kind of influence, a little bit of like The Hills Have Eyes or Dead Alive with some of the violence and some of the,
the grindhouse aspect,
kind of with the chopping off of heads or like other things like that. So yeah, what were your influences?
Well, you nailed it. I'm a child of the '80s. My biggest inspiration was David Cronenberg because he's a local Torontonian. And when I realized that this guy was living in Toronto, making films in Toronto about Toronto, like Videodrome is kind of based on a TV station that was here in the '70s. That used to play porn films on Friday and Saturday nights. So that was his inspiration. When I realized that Cronenberg was making a living doing films in Toronto, I realized that, hey, like this is actually a possibility. I don't have to live in Hollywood. I loved all the films that you referenced. I'm a big Abel Ferreira fan, big Sam Raimi fan. I loved Peter Jackson. I was actually at TIFF Midnight Madness when he premiered Meet the Feebles and was sitting behind him. I was there for Frank Hemelotter's Frankenhooker. Going to all those Midnight Madness films was my thing. Seeing Necromantic and Toxic Avenger and, all those films. So I just kind of brought in all that inspiration to this film because this film is a genre mashup. It has a little bit of everything in it. But I was conscious though, like I wanted there to be some good gore, but I didn't want to go too over the top with the gore. Like I could have taken it a lot further, but I didn't want to go there. I wanted it to be, a little more subtle's not the right word, but when it happened, I wanted you to like feel it, for it to have an impact, but not just being completely blood soaked. Right.
And that's, you definitely had a couple of I would describe most of it was not overtly gory. It was just, it was more the thought, like some of the thoughts behind what was happening. I mean, let me see if we have a picture here. Like this is one of your lead actresses and you see on her arm, most of her arm's been removed and the bones are protruding, but just so they can stick into these different things that they're able to fight with, which was so very cool. Like that idea right there, removing parts of the arm and attachments and stuff. Where did that come from? Because that was super unique and super cool.
Yeah. So that was the original concept, to replace cut off their arms and replace it with weaponry. So that in a way that they had no choice, they couldn't drop the weapon. It's attached to them. You're forced to fight. But that original concept was to like cut their arm off completely. And then as we were, talking about it, one of my business partners, he said, well, what if instead of cutting the arm off completely, you just kind of like defleshed it and you had like a bone sticking out there? And because then it's when it attaches, it creates more of a sturdier, weapon. Yeah. And it's like, not only does that make sense, but it would also look really fucking cool. So let's do that. So that was how that came about. Again, it's filmmaking is collaboration, and as the director, your job isn't to come up with every idea. Your job is to like filter all the ideas that are coming to you, whether it's, from your business partner or the writer or, a production assistant or the grip, and you just kind of filter them so that they end up on the film.
Yeah. Luke.
Yeah. So like, what kind of like props or things were you thinking of attached? Like, did you go with everything you guys thought of, or did you have ideas bigger than that you were kind of like, I don't know, that might be too much? Or describe the prop kind of process in the film.
Yeah, pretty much what you see on camera is what we came up with, because again, we were limited with our budget, we were limited with our means, and so we knew that we couldn't go too far, but we also wanted the weapons to be like seemingly accessible for a junkyard, so like, obviously a machete is an obvious one, as is an axe, but like a hedge trimmer, you know what I mean? It's not a usual weapon, but it's maybe something that you'd find in an auto or junkyard of some sorts, and it's got sharp edges and it could stab people. And if you were, given that weapon, you're just gonna have to deal with it, right? Like you don't really have a choice. So don't say in the matter. Sorry, can you guys hear the crazy guy outside my window screaming?
Yeah, but it's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's awesome.
I can close my windows if you want.
Yeah, no problem at all.
It adds to the
do you want me to close the windows?
Oh, it's fine.
Oh, it's fine right now. We can still hear you clearly. It's just
we can hear you. Hey,
all right. So
go ahead, Luke.
So like with that, like we're big Walking Dead fans, and like when we do like watch parties, everybody would be like, oh, if we were stuck in this post-apocalyptic type world, like which of the weapons would we want? Would we want, Michonne's sword, or would we want Daryl's crossbow, or Rick's gun, or whatever that is? So with your movie, like if you were you found yourself kind of stuck in the ring and defending yourself, which of the weapons or things would you want attached to your arm?
I would definitely go with the combo weapon. So that would be the axe, the double-headed axe with the nail gun built into it. Because at least it gives you it gives you a little bit of, distance to kind of like keep someone at bay. And it's not too heavy. The fumes of the chainsaw would kill you after a while. And I say that because that chainsaw weapon was a real, part of it was... He sounds like he's being attacked by a chainsaw. I got a real chainsaw from a guy on Craigslist. It was a gas-powered chainsaw, and so I used that to create the sound effects of the chainsaw, and then I actually wielded that to cut through the guy's face. That was like me using that real gas-powered chainsaw. So.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the scenes where we saw it. We're like, holy crap, did you just see that? That was what. Because that was unique. You didn't just like cut his head off. You sliced it up through the head, cutting a face off. That was
that was like the Dead Alive moment to me.
I don't want to sound like I'm so excited about that. I'm like, but like that was pretty cool.
Yeah, again, like I wanted to come up with some kills that you hadn't seen before on camera. You know what I mean? And I think that's the things that you want to. You see the gore, it's prosthetics and whatnot, but you want to do it in a new fun way, Yeah. So, so that was one of them that I dreamt up, and I'm happy it turned out pretty darn decent. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, there wasn't really a ton of gore in the movie, but the few that you had, they really popped. I mean, it was a rough movie. There were parts of it that were rough, but it was more just kind of a fun movie. And I just do have to say this. Julian Richings, I remember, like right when I saw him, I was like, "What the?" He's one of those faces, like he's so familiar. You've seen him in a lot of stuff. But he played Death on the show Supernatural, right? Yeah. And then I just have to ask, in real life, is he as scary as he appears? Because he's a big bad guy in this movie, and he's pretty spooky on camera. I mean, on film.
He is such a gentleman. Like he's such a nice guy. It seems like every time I talk, this guy is screaming. Wow. So yeah, Julian, he's been in everything from he's been in big budget films like Man of Steel. He was in recently. He was in Anything for Jackson. And to me, he's a true actor. Like he can really inhabit any kind of character that you give him. And he's not a method actor. He's not a precious actor. When I went into this film, I told him, look, guys, this is not Shakespeare. If you feel that a line of dialogue doesn't feel right coming out of your mouth, feel free to change it. But for the most part, like he stuck with the script. Like he made it work for him. He inhabited the character. So he's a great guy, and I hope to work with him again. He was actually in David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch, which I loved. He played like the voice of the mugwump, so he was on set working with like the guys behind the camera.
I never saw that.
I'm going to shut my window because
okay,
getting closer.
All right, and I'll talk.
I can still hear you though.
All right, that's cool. No, that movie Naked Lunch, was that based on the William Burroughs novel?
Yes, that's the one. So
I've not seen that one yet. I got to see that.
Oh my God, you got to see that. And here's the coolest thing is that our office, our Raven Banner office in Toronto, we sadly just closed it down because of COVID. Right. But it was actually in the actual building where he shot part of Naked Lunch. So he was supposed to go off to, I forget which country he was supposed to go to, but literally as they started production, Operation Desert Storm happened. And so they couldn't go to where they wanted to shoot the film. So, and this is actually a story that Julian Richings told me. And so, David took the news calmly, and during lunch, he went off and had his lunch, and he came back and he goes, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to build this Marrakesh market inside a building here in Toronto, and it's going to kind of give it this otherworldly kind of feeling. We don't actually have to be on location. It actually lends itself better to the film now. And so that's what they did. So they built this market, and they had these mugwumps hanging from the ceiling. And that's actually where our office was for the last 5 years. Yeah.
I was just showing everybody a picture of Julian here. If they do not know who I'm speaking of, he played the Emperor up here. You have kind of a cool mythology too, that what was kind of cool, you had a mythology that you talked about, but you didn't go super deep into how the sand wants its blood. And I think I really appreciate that. So many people get so bogged down in let me tell you every detail of what we're talking about, but you didn't really need it here. And that was well done. Luke, I'm going to throw it over to you after that.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you appreciated that, because that was my thing too, is that I didn't want to sure, I could go really in depth into the story and the background and all that stuff. And it's it just kind of becomes really unnecessary. Either you're buying into this world or you're not, you know what I mean? And it's the main thing I was concerned about was that the characters and the people in the film knew the methodology, that they knew the history and the background, and they believed in it. And so hopefully then they conveyed that to the audience. And that was actually one of my contributions to the script, was that I wanted him to be more of a cult-like leader who was fully aware that what he was selling people was really a bunch of bullshit, but they believed it hook, line, and sinker, right? And he was using it as a means to control people. That element of the script was important to me. So, and that came out of the dinner scene, of course. So, again, hopefully I'm not ruining this for people who are watching it, but yeah, that was a fun scene to film. His performance not only gave us chills, but the actress that was working with him, Michelle, those were actual tears that were coming down her face when she was talking to him, because he really did creep her the hell out. That's Michelle there kicking
right here.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, what a great performance of her and the actress who played her sister,
Emily. Yes.
Yeah, they were fantastic. Right, Luke?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that, I wanted to get into the kind of the casting process. And did you from the start, did you have different people in mind, or how'd you come to these people that you casted? Because it was a great cast. You had a lot of strong female type characters in this film.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Julian was top of mind. Because he's, a local veteran Canadian, Toronto actor. So him and I went and we had lunch, we hit it off, and, thankfully he jumped on board. But for the girls, a kind of genre mashup film like this doesn't get done a lot, with strong female characters, particularly 4 of them. And so we had literally hundreds of audition tapes come in from actresses all across Canada. And but these 4 girls, the four of them quickly rose to the top. Like immediately, like I had my eye on all four of them because not only did they have the look, not only did they have the acting chops, but all four of them had stunt or fight backgrounds in their repertoire. And that was really important to me that they had the physicality to sell it because, you know, I knew very early on that I didn't want to have to rely on stunt people to play them because, again, this is not a big budget film. I want to see them rolling and throwing punches and kicks and doing as much of the stunts that they could to make this as believable as possible. And thankfully, like these girls, they rose to the challenge. They even went as so far as to learn how to play drums. Kiriana learned how to play drums. Emily was like learning how to play guitar. Wade McNeil from the band Alexis on Fire was one of the guys who did the score, and he was like teaching her how to do the guitar solo. So they delve right into their roles.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about that music process of like, you know, there's definitely like at the beginning and the end, you know, that like strong like punk rock girl band kind of thing. Like, is that an idea you had from the beginning, or is that something the composer brought in? And can you tell us about coming up with that kind of song to start the movie and at the end of the movie?
Yeah. So the original script, the girls were rock climbers, not in a rock band. One day I accidentally wrote down the wrong word, and no, kidding. We just, I don't know how we got on that, but we just thought, you know, if we change them from rock climbers to a rock band, like that could be pretty cool. You know, that puts them on tour driving, you know, through the United States. It makes them a little bit more road savvy and, you know, how they can handle themselves. And plus we can start the movie right away with like this cool kick-ass performance. And then they get into a bar brawl. Like it just kind of perfectly made sense. And then not only that, but it had the aesthetic that we wanted, that they already had kind of like a bit of a punky look. And of course, the whole punk style is about taking bits and pieces from other styles and mashing them together. So it made perfect sense. So I was at South by Southwest about 4 years ago and saw a movie called The Ranger. And Wade McNeil and Andrew Gordon McPherson were the guys who did that score, and they happened to be Canadians. And I was like, guys, I love that score. I'm working on this film. I would love to have you on board. And so they jumped on board right away. And yeah, they came up with amazing music. The song that the band plays was a song that actually I wrote, and I don't play music, but I kind of came up with like the lyrics and kind of the basic idea of it, and had Wade come over to my house. I sort of can play the drums, so I kind of played it for him. He brought his guitar, and it was really fucking intimidating to be playing my bad drums with a guy who's like toured around the world. You know what I mean? Playing guitar beside me. It kind of creeped me out a bit. But anyway, so then they took that and made the song, and Michelle came in, performed it, and it was a lot of fun. The process, the whole thing was just a fun film to make.
Yeah, the film actually had a punk rock sensibility throughout the whole thing. It felt like a punk rock industrial concert gone crazy mad, and it, but in the best kind of way. Let me ask you. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, I cut my teeth on music videos. So that was actually, and so I edited this film myself. And so I brought a lot of that, you know, in cutting that band performance and that bar brawl, I used kind of my music video sensibilities to cut that. So,
So we're getting up, we're here to probably our last two or three questions here. You mentioned, like, you know, these great late night films. This one is it's being released on video, Blu-ray, video on demand, and everywhere. How would you feel if it became one of those cool late night films that people were seeing once a month, like at a specialty theater?
Hey, I would have zero qualms about that. If this became a film where people were throwing things at the screen or dressing up in character, listen. I love those movies, and that's actually, to me, the saddest thing about the digital age is how we are losing. We're losing, you know, rep theaters. We're losing that experience. You know, the '90s to me were the best in terms of like music and movies and magazines and all of that stuff. But I will say one cool thing about this movie is that we're actually working with Behemoth Comics. and they're actually doing a graphic novel adaptation of it. So that should be coming out. Yeah, maybe hopefully a few weeks after we release the film. But yeah, Behemoth, they're amazing comic brand, and so we're excited to be working with them on that.
Hey, Luke, what questions do you have to kind of close out the show here?
Yeah, I can give you a question or two. So, like, this is a very strong, like, female-led type, like, movie with, like, multiple characters and all that. Like, what were some of those movies in the past that kind of inspired you? Like, I know for me, it's like Sarah Connor and, like, you know, Ripley from, like, Alien. Like, those are, like, these badass women characters. Like, what were kind of some of the inspiration of female characters that came into this movie?
Yeah, the ones you mentioned, of course. Like Miss 45 is an obvious one because, of course, the band is named after, Zoe Lund's character in Belle Ferrer's film. Yeah, there was that. But, again, one of the things I try to do is not watch too many films or reference too many other films while creating like a film of mine. That way, it's not too direct of a reference. Like, it's just kind of more like through osmosis or subconscious that it's coming out. Like, I'm not, but one of the things that I did do was actually I made the girls a playlist of female punk bands. And then that was really more of the thing to kind of get them in the mindset, to kind of help them create characters of a punk band who then, when they're put into this environment, that they would then carry that character through rather than creating the character for that environment. I was more concerned with creating the character before they got to that environment, if that makes any sense.
It does.
So was there some Joan Jett or Distillers?
Joan Jett, L7, Bikini Kill, Brody Dahl, like all of those kinds of female artists and bands. Those were the ones who they were like, I was wanting them to be and then to inhabit. And then that way, like I said, they were bringing it that within the world, if that makes any sense. Yeah,
you guys should have a playlist that accompanies the movie.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. No, we created a playlist for them to listen to. In fact, the first time I got together with all four girls and they all got to meet each other, we went out for a nice dinner, and then we went down the street, College Street here in Toronto, and we saw a punk band play, and it was the first time for a couple of them to actually see that kind of band performance, and they went crazy. We had a few drinks, they got into the mosh pit, they were jumping around and like they got absorbed into the world. So yeah, it was great.
Nice.
All right, Luke, last question.
One more final question that I have is what scene are you most proud of in the film that you made?
Or what's one of the scenes you're most proud of?
Yeah, you know what, like I said, we shot this in 18 days. It was like a crazy whirlwind of a shoot. Like I barely remember it, you know what I mean? Because it's like when you're in the trenches like that, it's literally like you're just laser focused on the task at hand, and then once you've done it, you have to move on. But that said, we did those 16 days up north, and then we came down. We did 2 days here in Toronto at a bar, and that's where the opening scenes were done, the bar fight and the bar performance. And I got to bring in some of my family and friends. And by that point, like we were a well-oiled machine, and it was a great way to end the film. So that was really kind of my favorite scene to both film. And it's actually, I love that opening. And so I'm really proud of that. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Well, his name is Andrew Thomas Hunt. He's the director most recently of Spare Parts, and it's out on video on demand, digital, DVD, and Blu-ray on June 1st. We got to ask you, Andrew, any thoughts of like continuing this film, any sequels, or what's up next for you? You know what?
I never like to think about sequels, but certainly we kind of ended this film in a way that it could potentially carry on. But I just wrapped a movie called The Fight Machine. We shot it. We literally wrapped production about a week before COVID. The whole lockdown thing happened last year. I'm still in post on it now, just wrapping up some VFX and the sound mix. But that will be my next film, and after that, who knows? Who knows what will happen?
And where can people follow you or find out more about what you're working on?
Well, like I said, I'm a partner over at Raven Banner. So, the Raven Banner Facebook page is a great place to go to kind of see what I'm up to and to see what Raven Banner in general is working on. So,
all right. Well, we encourage everybody to check this film out. June 1st. It is a rock and roll ride. It is amazing. If you like Robert Rodriguez, if you like Mad Max, if you like all this and you like girl punk rock music, you guys will love this film. It's quite a ride. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning into the Con Guys Scare Guys show, or the scarier side of the Con Guy. And we hope you guys will like us. I hope you will share this podcast with all your friends and just let everybody know about this cool film. Andrew, thank you for joining us today.
Jim, Luke, thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
Great to meet you.